What is up, everybody? This is Tiger Pick Ems, first episode of the season. I'm your host, Memphian and Mizzou sophomore, Jake Durbin. This week we're doing SEC football predictions, of course, and featuring our own Missouri Tigers. Maybe they'll actually get a conference win this week, we'll see. So we're going to run through all the games. I'm going to give you my prediction, and let's start off with the gimmies. These are the games that schools pay millions of dollars for little schools to come visit them and basically get a free win, unless it's App State, and it might backfire. Let's start off with Kent State, 1-2, and number 1 Georgia, who's 3-0. Bulldogs outscored their first 3 opponents 130-3. They won against a very good Oregon team who put up 70 points this past week and beat BYU the previous week. I don't know, man. It's just the sheer dominance of Georgia so far just tells us that they're on a different level than everybody else. Nobody's really competing with them right now, and until somebody proves that wrong, there's no reason to think they aren't unquestionably the best team in the country. There's a reason this game's scheduled at 11 a.m. on ESPN+. It's probably going to be over by halfway through the first quarter. Only Georgia fans are going to want to watch it. My pick for this is obviously Georgia. The score, the line is Georgia favored by 44. I think it's going to be more lopsided than that. I have the score Georgia 63, Kent State 3. Next up, we've got the 3-1. Yes, you heard me correctly. 3-1 Vanderbilt Commodores heading down to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide, the number 2 team in the country. Alabama's favored by 40.5 points in this matchup. I think that's going a little easy on Vandy. Now I know, I never expected Vanderbilt to have a winning percentage this high past 1 week of play, but don't let that fool you. It's the scheduling. The scheduling team at Vandy did a great job giving them a few easy games to get the season going, but they're not fooling me. I think it's going to be a thunderous victory for Alabama down in Tuscaloosa. It'll put Vandy right back in the basement where they belong. I think Alabama takes this one 55-0. All right, moving on. Northern Illinois, 1-2, heading down to Lexington to take on number 8 Kentucky, sitting at 3-0. Kentucky, are they a football school now? Maybe so. It's looking like it so far. Mark Stoops has brought this program back from the brink of the dead. They've got a quality win against top 15 Florida. This should be a great game for them to stay warm, stay loose, get ready for that real mid-season, late-season push against the SEC competition they're going to have to face. So I said the Wildcats, they're favored by 25.5. I think it's even more lopsided than that. I'm taking Kentucky 41-6. Moving on, we've got Tulsa of the American Athletic Conference at 2-1, heading down to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels, who are 3-0. Ole Miss looks ready to dominate again in the SEC West. They've been pretty rock solid their first 3 games. They're going to be right up there in that race if all things keep going to plan. Now, Tulsa, their offense has been not bad. They've put up plenty of points, but they have allowed an average of 30 points per game, and they have not faced exactly what you'd call top-tier competition. And I think they're in for a reality check here. I think Ole Miss is going to beat them pretty bad. They're favored by 20. I think that's about what it is. I think Ole Miss takes this one 37-10. Next up, we've got the Bowling Green Falcons at 1-2, heading down to just down the road in Starkville, Mississippi, to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State, week 1, they beat Memphis. That's heartbreaking for me. And then they took Arizona to school pretty easily, and then they lost a tough game to LSU. So, but I think they bounced back this week. I think this is a good opportunity for them to get back on track. One of the most underrated teams in the SEC, I think. Not what you'd call competing for an SEC West title, but definitely I think they have a chance to end up in a solid bowl game by the end of the year, maybe 7-8 wins. I think they hand Bowling Green a pretty easy loss here. I'd say Mississippi State 45, Bowling Green 17. Moving on, we've got New Mexico heading down to Baton Rouge to take on LSU at 2-1. LSU favored by nearly 30 points in this game, 29.5 is the line. LSU had a rough start to the year. They lost that heartbreaker to Florida State to open the Brian Kelly era. But then they came back, they really got in the groove, they destroyed Southern. They disposed of Mississippi State last week. Then they got New Mexico coming into town. Should be a pretty one-sided affair. But if you're an LSU fan, enjoy this matchup because the next 4 weeks are not going to be the picture of fun. You're playing 4 straight top 25 opponents. And the final leg of that is a matchup against Nick Saban and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So it's not going to be easy. But I say they win this one pretty handily. LSU 31, New Mexico 3. That's my projection for that. Moving on here, we've got Charlotte 1-3 heading down to South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. The Gamecocks are sitting at 1-2, but don't let the record fool you. That's because they've been playing top-tier competition so far. They have had to face Arkansas and Georgia, 2 of the top class in the SEC. They lost both those games, but that's kind of to be expected. Now, by no means is South Carolina one of the better teams in the SEC, but they're definitely no slouch, and I think they'll easily take care of a group of 5 opponents such as this. They do not see it being too much trouble for them. But the line, I think Vegas is a little generous here. They're saying 22.5. I think Charlotte surprises the odds makers. They cover the spread. I say South Carolina 26, Charlotte 15. And moving on to our next section here. Those are the gimmies. Now we've got our more competitive games that I expect to be one-score affairs. The games you're going to want to pay attention to. And the first one we've got here is our own Missouri Tigers making the trip down to Auburn to play the Auburn Tigers. By any measurable metric, Auburn is having a kind of a down era year in football. They've kind of been a basketball school the last 3-4 years. But still, Missouri, this would be a huge win for us. Going into an environment like Jordan Hare, playing a team with a reputation like Auburn, program like that, that is no laughing. That's nothing to sneeze at. A win like that would be quality victory, no doubt about it. And it would help Mizzou prove that they are something more than just bad, but at least they're not Vanderbilt. They could prove they're a little more than that. Fortunately, personally, I don't see it yet. I think we lose this game. It's going to be close, but I think Auburn pulls it out 27-24 in overtime. That's my projection for that. Next game, this one is definitely one to pay attention to. Number 10 Arkansas heading to College Station to take on number 23 Texas A&M. A&M favored by 2.5 at home, basically a coin toss. Now the Aggies, they lost to App State. They got exposed. People are already saying the jury's out on their recruiting class. They're not what we thought they were. But they did pick up a solid win against a top 15 opponent, Miami Hurricanes. But this is a critical game for them. If they have any chance to stay competitive in the SEC West, they have to win this game. Similar situation for Arkansas, but it's not quite as critical, but it's still very important for them to get this win. Arkansas has a really good resume so far. They beat South Carolina. They took down Cincinnati. And I think because of that, Arkansas has been more battle-tested. They're more experienced. They're ready to win this game in College Station. I say they take it. I say the line is flipped. Arkansas wins by 3, 30-27. And now we've got the game of the week, the matchup everybody's been waiting for. This is the marquee matchup in the SEC this week. Number 20 Florida heading up to Knoxville to take on number 11 Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 11 in this game. I think that's way too generous. I think this will be a close game. Everything tells me it should be a close game. There's so many narratives going into this one. You've got the Florida-Tennessee rivalry, very classic rivalry in the SEC East. Goes back a long time. Tennessee still has a lot to prove. Every year it feels like they are supposed to be competitive. They're competing for an SEC championship. This is their year. They've got a great recruiting class. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen the results of that in a long time. But I feel like this year, so far, it's been going good for Tennessee. If any year is their year, it might be this one. Florida needs this game just as badly. They've already lost a game to stay in any sort of race in the SEC East. They've got to win this game. If they don't, you can forget about any high-profile postseason game for the Florida Gators. Tennessee loses this game. it really derails their chances to compete with Kentucky and Georgia. So, but I think as much as Tennessee has underperformed in the last few years, I say they get this win. I say they pull it out, and at least for now, they keep the wheels on the wagon. I say Tennessee wins 34-28. So overall, we've got all 14 SEC teams in action this week. Combined record is 10-4, undefeated against out-of-conference opponents, though. This week should really give us a chance to clear up the SEC race, and there's a lot of cupcake games, but there's also games that test those middling teams that we don't quite know if they're competing for the top yet or if they're pretenders. This is where we separate some of the pretenders from the contenders. Arkansas and A&M, Tennessee, Florida, huge games will be very telling for how the trajectory of this race is going to go. And hey, Mizzou could even squeak out a win. We'll see. All right, that's it for this week. Those are my pick-ems. This has been Tiger Pick-ems Week 1. I'm Jake Durbin, your host. Over and out.